Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The mummified heart of the English warrior king. King Richard I is known as Richard the Lionheart, and he was a brilliant warrior king. Throughout his time on the throne, he would rule over many different areas, including Normandy and other French settlements, but he was a great military leader. By the age of 16, he had taken command of his own army and put rebellions down against his father, but he would also go on crusade and would achieve many victories against Saladin. But on the 6th of April 1199, the king died whilst abroad. Following his death, his heart was mummified, and it is still around over 800 years later. In the March of 1199, Richard I, the King of England, was abroad in France suppressing a revolt. It was Lent, and it was said he devastated the land with fire and sword, and he would then go on the rampage, besieging an unarmed castle. And this was believed because a local peasant had found a hoard of Roman gold and that it was placed there. But on the 29th of March 1199, Richard was hit in the shoulder by a crossbow bolt, and although this didn't kill him instantly, his wound festered and became gangrenous. Richard would order the crossbowman who had fired the bolt to be brought to him, but it was a boy who had fired it. He expected to be executed, but Richard forgave him and said, "Live on, and by my bounty behold the light of day," and the boy was sent away with 100 shillings. But on the 6th of April 1199, whilst he was in the arms of his mother, Richard I died following the infection caused by the bolt. It was said that the lion was slain by an ant. However, after his death, as was standard really for medieval kings, Richard's body was embalmed. During this process, his heart was removed after a physician cut it out. But amazingly, this would be found today. It was common at the time for the king's heart to be removed and then mummified and embalmed in a different manner, so it could then be buried separate from the rest of his body. However, the heart of the king was recently investigated, and what was found was remarkable. The heart of Richard I had been embalmed using substances inspired by the Bible, and it was deposited in linen along with many other materials that preserved his heart for centuries. It was common at the time to cut open the cadaver and then remove the internal organs, and the body of the king was then interred at Fountvraud Abbey, close to where his father, Henry II, was buried. Richard's family was associated with the idea of dismembering the body after death, as his brother, Henry, received a double grave, for his entrails and eyes and brain in one place, and his body placed in another grave. But Richard's heart was placed in a lead box, which was discovered on the 31st of July 1838 by a local historian during excavations of ruined cathedral. It was found close to the funeral effigy of Richard I, and the sealed box was engraved with, "Here is the heart of Richard, King of England," and inside were fragments and parts of the medieval king. Investigations around this showed the remains of textiles and specifically linen which had survived, and there was also brown and whitish powder, which was the decaying heart of the king. Scientists identified various pollen grains from a number of different bacterial substances and deducted that when his heart was buried, it would have been healthy, meaning that the heart problems did not kill the king. There was a large amount of lead and tin, and also traces of copper and mercury and calcium may have been added during the embalming process in the form of lime, which was considered a disinfectant. The iron found was linked to the reliquary that was housed in, and it was also discovered that frankincense, myrtle, daisy and mint were used during the embalming process. The importance of frankincense was symbolic, as it linked the deceased king to Christ, as one of the wise men brought this to Jesus' birth. It was clear that the heart was wrapped in linen after it was removed from the king's body, and it had been covered in a variety of other substances and then placed in the lead box before it was then transported to Rouen, which was around 330 miles away, and would have taken some time during the medieval period. Following the investigations, the heart of the king, Richard I, was then reinterred in the coffin at Rouen. Some historians are rather critical of King Richard I. As one argues, He was a bad king. His great exploits, his military skills, his splendour and extravagance, his poetical tastes, his adventurous spirit, do not serve to cloak his entire want of sympathy or even consideration for his people. He was no Englishman, but it does not follow that he gave to Normandy, Anjou, and Aquitaine the love or care that he denied to his kingdom. His ambition was that of a mere warrior. He would fight for anything, whatever, but he would sell everything that was worth fighting for. The glory that he sought was that of victory rather than conquest. But others claim that he was a heroic figure, that was a king worthy of being the lionheart. But his heart was discovered over 5 centuries after his death, and was then tested to an extent in which remarkable things were found about it. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.